Hey guys, Metal Jesus here, and today's a big day because after years of rumors and guesses and speculation, we finally have all the details about the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2. There was an hour-long Nintendo Direct where they gave out hardware details, the release date. We now know the price, as well as a bunch of games that are coming for it, both brand new and also old. And so today I'm going to give you my kind of off-the-cuff thoughts of this, watching the whole thing. And I do have to say at the start here, this was a very good Nintendo Direct. They really answered most of the questions that I personally had with this. And I think for a lot of people trying to decide, do you want to get a Switch 2 or not? And this is kind of a big deal because if you remember back to 2017 when the original Switch was launched, I was one of the skeptical ones. I didn't know if I wanted a hybrid system, but in the end, I love the original Switch. I have over 200 physical games for it, plus a bunch of digital games. It's a fantastic console, and so it's big shoes for Nintendo to fill here to release a sequel to it, and I think that they are on the right track. But let's jump into the details just right off the bat here. So, the launch date for the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be June 5th, 2025. That's good. So got a couple more months to save up for it because it is going to be a pricey one. So the base unit is going to be $450. Now they are going to do a Mario Kart World bundle pack for $500 if you want to go that route, which is probably what I'll do. And we're going to talk more about Mario Kart World because they did lead with a trailer for that and it looks fantastic. But I thought for now I'd jump into the hardware details because they did get pretty specific here. All right, so it comes with a 7.9-inch display, which is obviously bigger than the original, but they're keeping the same thickness as the original, which is nice. Now this is a 1080p screen. And it's an LCD screen which supports HDR. Now, I know a lot of people were hoping that they would have a better screen on there, but I think, again, price is probably the issue here, and that leaves room for an upgrade later on. The screen will support up to 120 frames per second is what they listed there, so that's kind of interesting. So it looks like at least for an LCD screen, it's going to be pretty decent. They did talk at length about the new Joy-Cons. If you remember, the original has these rails on it. Well, this no longer has that. Instead, they are using really strong magnets. And that ties into the new SL and SR buttons. So they're now bigger and they're also made of metal. That's actually how the magnets are going to attach and keep your Joy-Cons connected to the Switch. And they confirmed that the Joy-Cons can be used as a mouse. So they showed a golf game using the mouse controls with a gyroscope. So it's pretty interesting to see a golf game using those mouse controls. But what's up with that C button? You know, a lot of people on the internet were speculating, what could the C button be? That's so interesting. Well, it turns out it's what a lot of people thought. It means game chat. So yes, finally, the Nintendo Switch 2 will have built-in game chat, but to everyone's surprise, they're not stopping there, actually. So first of all, obviously, there's a microphone built into the Switch itself, and what's cool about it is that it does support background noise canceling. So they basically say that, you know, if you got a bunch of stuff in the background, like someone using a blender or whatever, it's going to pick up on your voice and try to eliminate a lot of that stuff, which is great. But then they showed an external Nintendo Switch 2 camera. So this is something I don't think a lot of people expected them to do, myself included. But basically here, you're going to be able to buy this separately if you want, and you can add yourself into the game chat. And I guess this is going to require a Nintendo Switch Online membership to do that. However, I guess they're going to run a little free demo period for people to see if they actually want to do it. Now, what's interesting is that they showed off Super Mario Party Jamboree, which is adding in the mouse controls as well as this camera support. And check this out. So basically, it almost works like a Kinect because you can use full body movement in some of these, little mini games. So this is pretty interesting. I'm not entirely sure how many games are going to take advantage of this, but seeing a camera option here was a surprise for me. The other thing to notice here is that with that chat, you can also share your screen. And the thing I immediately noticed was just how low resolution, or at least how low the frame rates were here. Now that's probably to be expected. I'm sure it's very difficult to do, but yeah, those low frame rates are, they're not great. I'm sure that's something that they can probably improve upon in the future. And also, you know, it's going to depend on the game and how many people are in the chat, but I just want to point it out. They also mentioned that there's new updated audio for the speakers on the Switch itself, so I guess it's better EQ going on there, maybe a little bit more balance, and they said it's going to support 3D audio. There's a built-in microphone on the Switch itself, and there are two USB-C ports, one on the top and one on the bottom. They are massively increasing the internal storage on the Switch to 256 gigabytes, so that's 8 times larger than the original, which frankly had to happen because games have just been getting bigger and bigger. And as this thing moves to 4K support, you know, you're gonna use that space. And speaking of storage space, so this supports micro SD express cards. So you'll use those, you'll have to buy one, but basically you can plug one in here to expand the storage. Now what's interesting about that is that the original micro SD cards won't work. I suspect that's because of the speed. So again, as games get bigger and start pushing more information, more polygons, more texture detail, you need faster storage. And so this will only support micro SD express cards. The Switch 2 dock has been updated as well, so now it supports 4K video output with HDR, and they showed how they have now built a fan into the dock to help cool it. So again, I think that's a welcome addition here, especially if you're, you know, pushing bigger, you know, more complicated games. That Switch can get hot, so putting a fan in there makes sense. A lot of people, myself included, were curious how Nintendo was going to handle physical games, and thankfully the Switch 2 will support original Switch games, both physical and digital. Now it's curious here, you see the game cards look exactly the same as the original, except they're going to be colored red, and they're basically going to have new technology to be faster data speeds, which again makes sense as the games get bigger and more complex. Now let's go ahead and move on to the games themselves, and this gives you a real insight into what to expect with the Switch 2. Starting with Mario Kart World. So first of all, this is going to be an exclusive Switch 2 game, and it makes sense that they would start with this because the original Mario Kart 8 sold tens of millions of copies, and it's a fantastic game. And I have to say, they are adding some pretty cool stuff to this version. First of all, it's called Mario Kart World because it is open world. So you're not limited to just driving on the track itself. You can go completely off the track if you want. And they even mention that you can actually drive from one race to the next. So you're going to be able to race from one corner of the world all the way to the other side. That sounds pretty cool. It actually reminds me of SSX 3. That was the big feature of that game too, where you could start at the top of the mountain, and if you wanted to, you could take an entire, 30 minutes to go down to the bottom, racing the entire time. So this will support free roam, which is pretty cool, and it will support up to 24 drivers. Being that it's an open world game, it's going to support time of day as well as different weather conditions. So again, this is something that hasn't been brought to a Mario Kart game before, and it looks pretty interesting. And speaking of SSX, maybe they got a bunch of inspiration from that game. This will also support rail slides. I saw that immediately and I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. That's very much like snowboarding. This is going to be a launch title, which is going to be pretty cool. I'm going to definitely want to pick this up as well. And they're going to do a bundle version of this for, it looks like, $500. The next thing that they showed is something called the Welcome Tour. So this is designed to be a demonstration of the Switch 2's new features. Not entirely sure if this is really a game or not. And it's a paid digital game, which I thought was kind of surprising. It seems like they should just include this on the Switch itself, but maybe we'll learn more as time goes on. I was curious as to how original Switch games were going to look and run on a Switch 2, and they addressed that. So basically, a lot of, especially Nintendo releases, will have a paid enhanced update that you can buy that will essentially add in higher resolutions, probably better textures, and also better performance. For instance, they showed Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom having enhanced resolutions, better frame rates, and also HDR. But with this particular one, they also are adding something called Zelda Notes via the Nintendo app. So if you have that on your phone, basically what this will do, it's kind of interesting, I guess. You can do an audio guide through your phone to take you to specific quest locations within the game. And then what you can also do here is with Tears of the Kingdom is you can generate a QR code based on your creations in that game to then send to other players, and it'll show up in their game. So you can see what they're doing here. They're trying to add value beyond just, a performance boost essentially, which is pretty cool, I guess. They showed Kirby in the Forgotten Land, one of my favorite Switch games. I love that game. And this Switch 2 version is going to have an additional story, which is cool. Plus, it'll also have better graphics. Then they moved on to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And as a lot of people expected, because this is an upcoming game, there is going to be an original Switch version, but a Switch 2 version will add mouse controls. So a first-person shooter using those mouse controls. That's pretty cool. And so they showed several Nintendo franchises getting Nintendo Switch, editions of it with better resolution and frame rates. But again, at least through Nintendo, it's going to be a purchased upgrade. So, again, I get it. They're probably having to do work on it. I'm just hoping that they keep it fairly reasonable in price. And then there were just a ton of third-party game announcements. Another big announcement that a lot of people were hoping for is Elden Ring officially coming to Switch 2. So obviously a lot of people love that game. A lot of people looking forward to it. Coming to the Switch 2, that's pretty awesome. I'm going to go quickly through a bunch of these here because, yeah, there was just a ton, including Hades 2 was officially announced coming to the Switch 2. You'll have Street Fighter 6 with 26 playable characters as well as new amiibos. Here's one I still haven't picked up yet, and I'm very curious about, is Split Fiction. So, this is a game that has a lot of people buzzing about it. A lot of people love this game, and this is going to be a launch title. EA Sports officially announced that they are going to support the Switch 2. So that means a lot of popular, sports titles are going to be coming to the system, as well as Hogwarts Legacy. That's going to be a launch title. There's also going to be the new Tony Hawk 3 and 4. They announced Hitman World of Assassination, also going to be a launch title. And then immediately after that announcement, they teased an upcoming James Bond game called Project 007. I'm intrigued. Square Enix also announced Bravely Default, the HD remaster. And we also going to get Yakuza 0, the director's cut. That will be a launch title as well. There's going to be a new Hyrule Warriors game. So I never did play these because I'm not really into the Dynasty Warriors style of hack and slashes, but I know they've definitely got their fans. Another launch title here is going to be the sequel to Undertale, another game I have on my bucket list to play, or I guess my backlog, I should say, called Delta Rune. Borderlands 4 is officially coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 later this year. And then they talked about how they're going to add mouse controls to Civilization 7. That makes total sense, right? Because those type of games can definitely benefit from using a mouse. I was kind of surprised, but not really, to see Cyberpunk 2077 coming as a launch title on the system. I love that game. I played it several times now. And, this might be another excuse to play this game, so it's pretty cool to see. There was an announcement for a brand new game called The Dusk Bloods. Now, this is developed by From Software, and this will be an exclusive Switch 2 game, which is going to have a lot of people excited about that. As well as a new Kirby Air Riders. So this is a sequel to the original on the GameCube. This was something I did not expect to see, but yeah, that's a pretty fun game on the GameCube, so I'll be curious to see how they follow that up. Nintendo ran a trailer for a new 3D Donkey Kong game called Donkey Kong Bonanza. So, what to know about this? There is lots and lots of smashing going on here. This is all about destruction. It kind of gives me that Kirby Forgotten Lands vibe. This looks really fun. It's going to be coming out in July. And then finally, Nintendo made an announcement that I think a lot of people were hoping for, and that is GameCube games are officially coming to Switch Online. So they're going to start with Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2, and F-Zero GX. The thing to know about that is F-Zero is going to come with online multiplayer, which is pretty awesome. And each of these is going to come with improved resolutions and other enhancements, probably better frame rates, things like that. And they didn't stop there. They also said that they're working on other GameCube titles to be added in the future. Looking at that though, I was like, hey, where's my Eternal Darkness? I want that game. To go along with that announcement, they did say that there's going to be a dedicated GameCube controller, which will be available with wireless support and that C chat button. Oh yeah, and they also announced a new Switch 2 Pro controller that'll have the new GR and GL buttons, along with that C button and an audio jack. And so as you can see, guys, there was a lot announced, and I do think this was a fantastic direct. Again, it basically addressed most of the questions that I had. You know, should I invest in a Switch 2? You know, is it something that I'm actually going to use? And I have to say, yeah. I mean, especially, I really got the feeling that great third-party support is just going to continue uninterrupted, right? I mean, I didn't even go over all the games that they showed. It was a ton, and they're going to have even more announced, I'm sure. So it looks like it's going to be, you know, a really good launch. Lots of games there, both from Nintendo and third parties. I think the hardware is interesting enough and good enough to justify, you know, following up the original Switch, right? We're going to have better resolutions, better performance, plus all those little interesting things like the mouse support and, you know, the chat options. Those are all going to be very welcome. And when it comes to the price, are we really surprised it's going to be $450? I mean, the original Switch launched back in 2017 at $300. So it increased by $150. I mean, I think that's to be expected all these years later. The other thing being reported, oh boy, this is going to be controversial. They're saying that Mario Kart World is going to retail for $80 for the digital version. Ouch. The only thing I would say, it would have been really amazing had Rockstar dropped a Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer at the very end of this. Talk about a mic drop. That would have been amazing. Sadly, that didn't happen. But I would love to know what you guys think. Are you excited about the Switch 2? Or are you going to kind of hold off for a little bit and think about it? What are your thoughts on this? So let me know down in the comments below. And as always, guys, I want to thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing. Take care.